I'm Walter Haines with the United Employees Law Group. This message is one of a series designed to expose common errors and violations engaged in by companies that have shortchanged employees out of tens or even hundreds of thousands of dollars in overtime pay and related violations. Having prosecuted well over 700 labor cases, of which more than 70 were class actions against Fortune 500 companies, we discovered that most of these errors and abuses went unchecked over time because employees counted on their employers or the government to protect them. Unfortunately, this has allowed some employees to suffer major losses. We at United Employees Law Group have created this series to help you recognize some of the common violations we have prosecuted. This series is designed to give you insight on your employment rights. The following discussion covers the executive exemption, which in many instances has been used improperly to deny overtime compensation. It is also unlikely that your employer will even advise you as to which exemption is being applied to deny you overtime. And if it does, multiple exemptions may be applied to add to the confusion. Because of the complexities and the subtleties of the executive exemption, it's difficult for an employee to know if his or her employer is applying the law correctly. The key here is to know when to seek an unbiased analysis of your situation. There are 6 mandatory requirements that an employer must meet before the executive exemption can be used to deny overtime. The thing to remember is that if only one of the requirements is not met, then the entire exemption fails, and overtime must be paid unless a different exemption applies to your job and all its requirements are met. The elements that must be met are: 1. The employee's duties involve actual management of a business or a recognized department of the business. Number 2, the employee spends over half of his or her weekly work time engaged in actual exempt work, which includes managerial responsibility, or the employee has personal effect on the policy or general business operations of his employer or its customers. To elaborate, the employee must be engaged in running the business itself or determining its overall course or policies, not just in the day-to-day carrying out of the business affairs. Put more simply, there is a difference between one who merely works around the place and one who has something to say about running the place. 3, the employee directs the work of 2 or more other employees. Number 4, the employee can hire or fire other employees or make recommendations which actually carry substantial weight in the decision process of hiring, firing, or promotion of other employees, and is not just considered by others in their decision-making process. Number 5, the employee customarily and regularly exercises discretion and independent judgment on the job. In general, the exercise of discretion and independent judgment involves the comparison and the evaluation of possible courses of conduct, and acting or making a decision after the various possibilities have been considered. Handling matters in accordance with prescribed company policy does not meet this requirement. Number 6, the employee must be full-time and salaried. The monthly salary must be twice California minimum wage for full-time employment. If the employer cannot prove all the above elements, the employee is non-exempt under the executive exemption and should be paid overtime. We have seen situations in which the executive exemption is referred to as the supervisor's exemption. In many businesses, these supervisors wear several hats, helping out with the day-to-day work that is not the supervising of others or making high-level decisions. In many of these situations, the 50% test is not met, and overtime must be paid, regardless of that person's title. Also, many employees are misclassified and don't qualify under the executive exemption because he or she is not truly in charge of a real department or subdivision of a business. To be in charge, the employee cannot simply participate in the management of the unit, but must run the unit himself. This is why most low and mid managers and team leaders are entitled to overtime pay. Each and every test discussed above must be met to qualify an employee as exempt, even one that is highly paid or highly educated. If you suspect you've been misclassified, take a couple of minutes to talk to an experienced California law attorney and find out what your rights are. This video is part of United Employees Law Group's effort to provide useful information and strategies to protect your rights and to level the playing field. Thank you, and I invite your comments.